Welcome back to Lostboys Cypher Circle, everybody. I'm your host, Dylan Lawler. If you didn't know, this is a show where I bring artists of all kinds, whether they be published authors or painters or poets or rappers or musicians, or if you just want to come on here and have a conversation. We have a whole show dedicated to that, in fact, and it is called Lost Boys Presents Deep Cuts. It's a show where I bring artists on one and kind of talk to them on a deeper level, kind of go deeper into their minds, deeper into mine, because we have that time to be more one-on-one. And actually tonight, we're going to do things a little different than our normal show. Normally we have like multiple guests. Tonight it's going to be more like a deep cuts episode. I apologize. It is a last minute change to the format, or I would actually have it labeled as such. But that being said, it is going to be more of a deep cuts episode featuring one of our favorite artists, Miss PR Infidel, Patricia Ray, and talking about our unofficial Lost Boys mascot, Chester, because Chester's just the most amazing cat in the world. And yeah, so that's what we got planned for tonight. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you would like to go subscribe to us, we are on all platforms every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. We go live on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. Twitch. Yep. And on all other platforms, you'll find the audio versions as well as some extra clips. So go ahead and check that out and give us a follow and a subscribe. It always helps. Much appreciated. If you'd like to come on the show, you are an artist who'd like to present some of your work. Sorry, I'm doing this without Brandon tonight, so I'm a little off kilter. But if you would like to come on the show, you are an artist, please message me on Facebook at Dylan Lawler or email me at lostboy420x@gmail.com. It's Dylan Lawler on Facebook or lostboy420x@gmail.com. And as always, you can always donate to us. Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal. Anything from 10 cents to $10 helps. The tag is the same for all of the accounts. It is Lostboy420x. Don't forget the X. And we appreciate anything that you can spare. That being said, before we get into the show as normal, I like to give a quick trigger warning and provide the crisis hotline for the U.S. So real quick, for those of you who might not know, who don't watch the show, because it is a show of free expression in any form you see fit, and it is a place to come and express yourself to your fullest through your art. A lot of the time it can substitute as kind of a therapy session for us to get a lot of the stuff we have going on in here out and get a lot of the stuff off our chest. In doing so, at times it can be triggering for both ourselves and for others. And I would just ask that anybody who feels triggered and needs to click out at any time, please do so. You will not be, no one will hold it against you in the slightest. We understand, we all have our own experiences and our own past and our own traumas, and there's no telling what's going to trigger one person to the next. So this is meant for entertainment. This is meant for it is meant for a little therapy. If you can come away from this feeling a little better, then that's great, but I definitely don't want anybody coming away from this feeling worse. So again, feel free to click out at any time. There is also I also try to provide every week the Lifeline Crisis for US. This is both text and call, and they have a website as well with professionals and resources and stuff like that on hand to help you. And then there's also betterhelp.com, which is not a paid promotion by any means, but I have heard many people speak very highly of it. I know people who use it, and one of the best things I've heard about BetterHelp is if you don't link up with a therapist that you like connect with and you like talking to, they'll switch you out free of charge. So besides that, it's also one of the cheapest options from what I heard, which is a big upside. So I hope some people can go find some help there, and yeah, let's get on with the show. Also, if you want to ask us anything, drop your questions, comments, anything like that, comment section is always open. With that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and bring our guest up for tonight with her flyer. I'll read off her introduction real quick. Miss Patricia Ray, or PR Infidel, as she goes, on the title of her books, is an author. She's got books out on Amazon right now, such as this one, and its sequel. This one is Tales of American Idiocy, and then hold on, I believe the other one isn't coming. What is the name of the other one? Hang on. I have it like right here in my Amazon cart. Conspiracy Crew: The End Is Meow is the sequel to this book. So I'll just get that. I'll actually show you that. I'll show that cover real quick since I have it. Oh, there we go. All right. So you got Tales of American Idiocy and Conspiracy Crew: The End Is Meow, both on Amazon. Go check them out. I'm beginning the first book. It is fantastic. I've already heard, obviously, passages of it in past episodes, but I'm very excited to see like how they connect to the overall narrative, and just the work she's done is fucking amazing here. Please go check it out. You can also go check out her blog on goodreads.com under PR Infidel, and on gab.com at proudinfidel911. And I'm going to go ahead and play her flyer and get her up here.
Hi, Dylan.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing tonight? Welcome back.
I'm doing okay.
Podcast. Oh, sorry. I think there might be like a small mic delay.
Yeah, possibly.
My bad. Well, thank you for coming back on the podcast. I appreciate you being here. For those of us who don't know you, if you'd like to talk about yourself and tell us a little bit about what it is you do and what you write about, by all means.
So I'm an author. I also have a full-time job. This is actually kind of a hobby side thing I do. But I've always been able to write, and I just saw things getting so crazy in the country that I decided I needed to use what God had given me to maybe highlight some of it, that I couldn't stay silent anymore. So I decided to go ahead with my first book, which is Tales of American Idiocy. And in that book, it's a series of short stories that book is basically detailing the early 2020s. And in that book, there is a story about a conspiracy theorist cat named Chester. And Chester just got really popular. And a lot of people kept asking me, hey, we need more Chester. We need more Chester. And so I wrote Conspiracy Crew: The End Is Meow, which is about the trucker brigade and digital ID. And it does touch a little bit on weather modification. And I'm starting the third book. I do have an excerpt from it ready for whenever you want me to read it, or we could do it another night. That book will be called Conspiracy Crew: The Burning Earth, and it's going to touch on some of these fires and things that we're seeing. So,
wow, yeah, I'm super excited for this not only Chester, but all the other little critters that you have just worked so hard to like bring out such unique like personality traits of each of them, and like really like your character building is so unique and amazing. And though Chester is kind of the star of the show, I just love the world you've built in general, and just like how you're able to use such unique and and they're complex without having to think too hard about it, right? You've created complex creatures in the sense of they're like cutesy and funny, but it's like they're you're tackling all these huge real world problems, and they're also there's also this like psychological thing I like of like they're cats, so they don't quite, or not all cats, because there's turtles and like they're all these little creatures, but they don't quite like understand human culture. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like something like a very interesting dynamic that I love seeing in your books, is that like they on one hand sometimes they understand things that we're doing to ourselves better than we understand them, and then on like the flip side of that, there's like such normal little things that they just like don't get because they don't live in our world, they don't live in our society. Like they call TVs glowing boxes, like little things like that just like create such a unique little, they give the world you've built such character. And I really 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 enjoy that. It's just your world and character building is just so phenomenal.
Thank you. But in in my defense, I don't think I fully built this world. I think COVID and some other people built this world, and I'm just trying to use these critters to explain it and maybe kind of reframe it in a way where people will start questioning what's going on around them. But thank you for your kind words, about my work, and I'm glad that you enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for continuing to I guess give us what we want, because I can definitely speak for all your fans when I say more Chester is always welcome, and more of this fantastic world is always welcome. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Uh it is been absolutely amazing to like find or sorry, see little passages from this, and I'm loving that I'm finally getting to sit down and when I have time, God, with work and everything, it has been quite the well month really. But yeah,
Yeah.
winter kind of
I
kicks
understand how
everyone's
that is.
ass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's mine kicks my butt too many times. So but it's what we do, and we have to just kind of do the best with it that we can, and just use our little therapy sessions and try to keep trugging along.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
um so yeah, I mean, if you had some stuff you wanted to read tonight, by all means. You I didn't you had a excerpt from, so you said one of the things you wanted to read tonight was an excerpt from the new one that you're working on, but what was the other one again?
I have a poem called Pimping Ivermectin. And what that's about is that is a poem that basically it's a question that I'm kind of posing to society. And what I'm asking is there going to come a time where big pharma has such a grip on everything? And I'm talking supplements, I'm talking food, um, everything, where the only thing that's going to be sold is big pharma drugs. And in order to get things like ivermectin or even vitamin C, the gangstas, you know who I mean by the gangstas, right? The people that usually sell crack and stuff like that, are they going to be the ones that we're going to have to go to get the healthy stuff?
God,
So,
that's a scary thought. I've always been of the opinion that the biggest gang in the world is the US government.
yeah,
There's legitimate fact to support my opinion too. It is like it literally like the mafia. You pay them every month to keep you safe, and God help you if you don't.
yep, yep. And there's a lot of other stuff coming out about like the corruption and what they've spent money on. And there is actually an organization out there called White Coat Waste Project that specifically tries to target shutting off funds for cruel animal experiments. and I've been a donor of theirs for a while. So I don't know if you've heard of Fauci's Bagels, where they did some. I don't want to,
That
um,
does. I
get
feel
too
like that sounds
gory.
that sounds familiar. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, if
I
you,
don't want to get too. Yeah, I don't want to be too gory, but let's just say that the U.S. government funded some experiments on beagles that were pretty unethical, and a lot of other animals too. So um, it is like a mafia, and it's so big that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, and it's just chaos. And our money needs to be spent better. So
absolutely, absolutely. I really, again, that's um, not to reiterate again, but that is the thing I love the most about your writing is you're just like you're willing to tackle any topic without fear of repercussion or ridicule or anything like that because you believe that it needs to be said regardless of I mean clearly obviously any writer wants to make money and sell copies like that's the main goal of when you put out a book you want to sell copies but there is with you I always feel this attitude of like I don't really give a fuck if it's gonna sell or if people are gonna like it, but it needs to be said, so I'm gonna say it. And I
yeah,
really like that is no matter what, you're gonna say it because it needs to be said at the end of the day. And I
yeah.
really, really appreciate that about your writing for sure.
And I do try to say it in a way that is fun, that is kind, that is kind of Orwellian. Um, because I'm not here just to troll. I'm not. Trolling is just to me that it's like I'm just trying to one up you. I'm not trying to one up you. I'm trying to make you think. And
Right.
if you don't agree with me at the end of the day, that's fine. That's okay. We can part as friends. Um, but I just want people to think about what they're being fed and what's coming out of these glowing boxes. And, not only what they're being fed up here, what they're being fed here, let's just think, let's slow down and really try to um, understand what they're trying to do to us and what they're trying to make us do to each other before we act.
Right.
So that's
Now,
my goal.
you said that you kind of like stumbled into this in during COVID, but I'm curious, like, I'm sure that you've been a writer for much longer than COVID, and I'm sure that I don't know exactly. You can tell us if you want when you started aspiring to be a writer, but it was this something from the beginning that you always like. I'm going to talk about social issues. I'm going to talk about justice. I'm going to talk about things going on in the world, or is it something you kind of stumbled into later in life?
You know, that I started stumbling into my late 30s. I've always been able to write. It's just something I can do. Um, some people can cook, some people can work on cars. I can write. That's what I was given by God. And I didn't really, I mean, sure, I thought about being an author and thought it would be cool, but I pursued another career because, it's more steady money and just kind of put my writing on the back burner for a while. And then I just saw everything get real weird with COVID. And I thought to myself, I'm like, no, this is not okay. I've got to do something. And where I was at the time when COVID happened was one of the more dystopian parts of the country. Um, and they just went along with it. I think if the government told them to jump off a cliff, they would have done it. Just like nothing up here. Um, and so, and I was in a situation where I couldn't really go out and protest. I don't want to go into the details of that situation, but I just, at that time, I could not do it.
Mhm.
And so I was like, okay, what else can I do? And I remembered what I'd been given. And the first story that I wrote during COVID was actually, it's in Tales of American Idiocy. It's called Delilah the Brave. And it's about a deer that is in a very dystopian COVID kind of like situation where there's this hunter that comes in, and there's this authority figure that tells them they can't, act normally or whatever. And Delilah says, this is really strange. I'm going to go check it out. And she actually goes and befriends the hunter. And she finds out that no, he doesn't want to kill all the deer. He just needs one to feed his family. And that's it. And I don't want to spoil the story for you, but because it's in that book that you've got right now.
There's no table.
But
There's no. I was looking for a table of contents. There's no table of contents. I'll have to just read it until I find it.
It's toward the back. It's toward the back of the book.
I'm just gonna have to read it in order.
Yeah. So I wrote that, and I thought, okay, that's the end of it. But no, the stories kept coming, and they just kept coming, and they kept coming, and they kept coming, and it was like it just poured out of me. It's like it was. I don't want, the best word I can think of it as is possession. Like something had possessed me, but because I normally don't write like that. I'm kind of a slower writer. But no, this time it's like there was a switch that went on, and I just kept on and kept on and kept on. And it was the same way for that second book that I wrote about Chester, his adventures. It just poured out of me. So I'm entering a stage in my life, I think, where whatever created me wants me to do this. And so I'm going to do it. And I'm going to try to be nice about it. But whoever doesn't like it, fuck it,
Yeah, fuck them. Yeah, I totally understand that, and I do understand the sense of like the possession that you're talking about. And I often say that artists are like conduits for the energy of the universe. Is we just kind of take in everything else and we put it out through kind of like batteries. Almost, we store up the energy of the universe and we kind of put it out through our work. And we're just conduits for this kind of other forces. Is kind of how I feel a lot of the time when I'm writing as well. It's just kind of this like other creative force just takes over, and like not that it's not me, but it is just a part of me that is more in tune with, as corny as it sounds, the vibrations of the world or whatever, and that's and that is I think a way or something that a lot of people can not just artists but especially artists, a lot of people can relate to, is like, even if you're not religious, right, it there's a certain level of being connected with the universe and knowing that you're kind of like interwoven, and everybody is like interwoven into this kind of like web. And so we're kind of all like just playing off of each other's emotions and each other's different experiences, and artists more so, where we're able to just kind of process and see the world in a different way, and express our thoughts and feelings about it in a different way, and I 100% agree, whether you believe in God or not, that this is like a mission for you. Not I don't want to say like a mission from God, but it definitely feels to be like a calling for you, and like what you're meant for. And I really truly, after seeing you and hearing your stories multiple times, I really truly believe like that is your calling. And the fact that you have that attitude of just, I'm going to say what I'm going to say because it needs to be said, and fuck them, is what makes you like the best person to kind of carry out that mission. And I really love that about you. So I did want to ask you about your influences, because it is, your stories are very George Wellian, I guess you would say.
George Williams, I like that word.
Is that like, so is he somebody you read a lot growing up, or who were some of your influences, if not?
So he was part of my influence. I didn't read him really growing up, but I read him in my later years. I read 1984 growing up, but I didn't read Animal Farm till much later. And I just love that story and love that kind of genre. And it's a hard genre to do, I think. So the fact that God gave me the ability to do it is something to be celebrated. And then the other thing too, as far as my influences would be, animals. I love animals. I've always been an animal person. I've always had pets. If you hear of a woman mauled to death in the jungle by a tiger and you don't hear from me anymore, it's probably me, because I probably tried to hug it, um I went to a gator farm and just held and kissed the baby gator, and I'm that person. Okay. My other influence is Christianity. I've been different kinds of Christian throughout my life. I've tried the different sides of the house. I grew up Protestant, and then when I was older, I became Catholic because I liked the ritualism and the connection with history. So definitely God's a big influence. And then the Army. I was in the Army for a while, and then after I got out, and then after I got out, of course, I married a soldier while I was in, and then I followed him around until he completed his career. So,
Wow. Well,
yeah.
thank you both.
So
thank you both for your service.
A hell of a lot of good it did, but you're welcome, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's there's that is the single reason why I don't even vote, because I feel that exact same way. Hell of a lot of good it'll do, and that's just my personal opinion on that. So have you always kind of, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead, ask your question. It's fine.
Oh, I was gonna ask, have you always kind of gravitated towards that kind of like metaphorical satirical satire, what, you know what I'm trying to say, that kind of satire type of writing, that George Orwell or was that something you also stumbled into?
No, I completely stumbled into it after COVID. Like I said, the first story I wrote that I would consider of this genre was Delilah the Brave, which is the one about the deer. And then they just kept coming after that. Now, before, I still have this novel on my computer. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but I wrote a story about war dogs in Iraq. And the story is told from the perspective of the war dogs. And when you read Conspiracy Crew, the end is meow, and you have Bonnie and Rocky talking to them, or in the story they talk about being reincarnated, and that they were war dogs before. So that's actually kind of a carryover. If I ever get around to publishing it, I'll advertise it as a prequel. But even that's book cool. Is not what I would consider satire. That's more of like a historical kind of fantasy / just historical fiction, even maybe you'd call it. But the satire, no, it's something new for me within the last few years.
And I think that and I am really very interested to see that if you ever decide to put that out. That would be, because personally I love sequels and or prequels, but that is interesting because it sounds like when you stumbled into that kind of mindset or that kind of style is really kind of where you found your niche and where you kind of like found your pocket that you like that you fit into. And like, for example, I have quite a few rappers on this show, like me or Caleb, and the thing about like music, especially when it comes to rap, is if you notice, if you listen to any rap song, every rapper, unless they're using auto-tune, which they all do now, but how it used to be before like 2010 is most rappers every single one of them sounded different because they all developed their own unique style. So you can go back and listen to like Infinite by Eminem in 1996, and then you go back and then you listen to a few years later his Slim Shady LP that like really set him skyrocketing, and you see the shift of just like, okay, yeah, he was good, like he had skill, and all the like skill-based skills were there, but he hadn't found his thing. And he just found out that his thing was, dirty humor and like just fucked up jokes and saying things, which, oh, that's a lot of what I like about you, is just saying things that nobody else will say because they need to be said. But
Yeah.
when he figured out, oh, like Slim Shady is like my thing, like the dark humor and the, in your face, shit, is when he found his niche and he really skyrocketed. And I just love that, like, you found like that thing. And I'm not exactly sure if I have. I know, like, I taught, like, obviously, like, I kind of fall into this thing of like, mental health, and like sometimes I'll talk about like social issues and whatnot, but it's mostly about like mental health and like addiction and stuff. And I don't want that to be what I talk about for the rest of my life, necessarily. So I'm not sure if I really want that to be my thing, you know? But it's always so interesting to me when like an artist finds their pocket, and you can really tell. You look at them and you're like, wow, that is like, that's them. That's their image. That's their, like, they really found it. That's so unique and special. So I'm really, really glad that you found yours. It's really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So yeah, let's start off and like get to reading some of this. Do you want to do the poem or the excerpt first?
Let's do the poem. So, just a little warning, okay? I'm pretty white, as you can tell, and this does border on rap, okay? And I
Well,
not a
yeah.
rapper.
Okay, look at the poster behind me. Now look at my skin. They kind of almost
Yeah, I
blend
know.
in. They almost.
But you're a very good rapper. You are a very good
Thank
rapper. We're
you.
talking about Eminem, okay? You're I mean, rap
I
might
just
be your thing, in my opinion, but
I grew
we'll
up. I
see.
grew up.
Maybe you could rap about mental health.
Yeah, no, I mean that's again. I talk about a lot of Eminem because that's who I grew up listening to, and you'll always get like the people who'll be like, "Oh, he fucking," nah, 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 nah. But it's like, at the end of the day, in my opinion, I listen to who I think is the best, and I take my
Mhm.
cues of what I do from who, in my opinion, is the best at it. And
Yeah,
my opinions often tend to be based heavily in fact, and there's heavy facts to back up that he's the best, or at least one of the best. So that's kind of why I talk about him so much, and yeah, I get a lot of like shit about it, but at the end of the day, like, you're gonna learn from the people that you kind of like, you know but yeah, that's
well, he's not perfect, and he does some outrageous things, and I get that, and some people get offended by that, but at the end of the day, none of us are, and I think that God uses everyone, even the really fucked up among us. I mean, that's just where I'm at with that. So, um, but yeah, I my opinion is I think rap might be your thing. So, but we'll see,
well,
I
thank
guess.
you. I appreciate it. So hold on real quick. I didn't have this up here. Pimping PI. Hold on.
Pimpin' ivermectin.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna have to read that off my phone to see how to spell it, because you did send it to me. Okay. Uh
Yeah,
I yeah, so that's a medication, correct?
yeah. Ivermectin it's a medication, and it's actually an antiparasitic. So
Okay. All right.
yeah.
And I know you did already tell us
So
a little bit about this, but if there's anything you want to say about the poem before you get started, by all means. But I'm just gonna drop myself out of here and let you get to it.
okay. So the only other thing I want to say about this poem before I start is it's very interesting because the question that I'm asking is is there going to come a day where gangsters that normally sell crack, cocaine, and all the unhealthy drugs are going to be selling the healthy drugs because Big Pharma has cut everything off. So just keep that in mind. There's also a little character development here. You'll see with the main human, Daddy Mac. So pay attention to that. He goes from being a standard gangster to being someone that really cares about his work and really cares about his customers. So anyway, let's get started. Pimpin' Ivermectin. Under a gangster's pad along a freeway in LA, a group of raccoons lived, running errands night and day. And one of the things they ran and one of the things they played was deliveries for their human and his business family. They brought the crack and pot and all of the other sister raccoons working alongside their gangster brothers. And because they were raccoons, their drops were quick and slick, outrunning cops and feds. But their drops made buyers sick. And when buyers got sick, then they start dying. When the buyers start dying, then the buyers stop buying. So one day their human came. There was a change to the bread. Because it's hard to keep on pimping when the customers drop dead. And that's why on that day, the raccoon's human said, dig, y'all, I got a whole new bag. See, the internet's got this great new fad. A fad the fates hate. And Big Pharma, too. It's big money, and I'll share it with you. It's called ivermectin. Cures all kinds of ills. That's why the feds hate it. Keeps them from being shills. But that doesn't mean we can't be, said Joey, the lead raccoon, rubbing his claws together underneath the Tuesday moon. You bet, shouted Raccoon Sheila. Can we pimp it soon? Y'all can pimp it now, Daddy Mac, their human said. And he pulled the ivermectin from beneath his king-size bed. Then he divvied up the goods and the addresses to the buyers. And the raccoons ran deliveries, along with some new flyers. And on the flyers was printed their business model true, a model all involved would be happy to pursue. We pimp an ivermectin. This is now our bag, because helping out our neighbors shouldn't be a passing fad. We pimp an ivermectin. You can get it with our skills. And word up on the street is that it cures all kind of ills. We pimp an ivermectin, but please don't tell the feds. And if they come around, be sure to hide it neath your beds. We pimp an ivermectin. Ivermectin is our fame, because keeping y'all healthy is now the name of our game. And as the raccoons ran and the ivermectin flows, Daddy Mac had all the bread, the Benjamins and hoes, and the raccoons being runners surely got their share, which was more than an old school drug pusher made then anywhere. Ivermectin is amazing, yelled Sheila. Ivermectin is the best, Joey said. Ivermectin is a drug that runs circles round the rest. And the buyers, they agreed, and the buyers, they kept buying. Such a thing happens when you keep the buyers from dying. And the buyer base increased, and the money piled high. But all that bread and Benjamins soon caught the popo's eye. We could look the other way when you were selling crack cocaine, the street cop said, but now you're pimping ivermectin. Fact that can't remain. Daddy Mac, your ivermectin corners our market and our payers. It angers politicians and annoys big pharma players. Well, they should make a better product, like ivermectin too, said Daddy Mac. Ain't that how free market works? Don't it seem that way to you? But the cop wasn't happy, even though the cop did smirk. Stop the ivermectin, or your family gets the hurts. But the raccoons overheard, and the raccoons didn't stop, for they had the favor of buyers to stick it to the cops. The buyers covered for the runners, and even Daddy Mac. And when the popo came round, they hid all of the sacks. The runs continued day and night, as the runners they thus sang. We pimpin' ivermectin. This is now our bag, because helping out our neighbors shouldn't be a passing fad. We pimpin' ivermectin. You can get it with our skills. And word up on the street is that it cures all kinds of ills. We pimpin' ivermectin, but please don't tell the feds. And if they come around, be sure to hide it neath your beds. We pimpin' ivermectin. Ivermectin is our fame, because keeping y'all healthy is now the name of our game. And this continued for a minute, working on the down low. And raids on Daddy Mac came up with none to show. Till one day the street cop followed a raccoon. And when he did, he saw bags of ivermectin in their little raccoon claws. And the second night about, he saw the same darn thing, with raccoons doing more than just standard raccoon things. And the cop shook with disbelief as he radioed over the comm. Raccoons are pimping ivermectin, making all the drops, pissing off big pharma, and running all the props. They're the brains behind Big Mac. This is a world-class con. A voice replied, one that needs to be gone. Animal control, whispered the cop, and he made the call that minute. Though when he told his story, the other's reply had laughter in it. And I know how it sounds, but I'm serious, I swear. Animal control snickered. Of course, we'll be right there. And when animal control arrived, they were forced to eat their words, for there were raccoons with ivermectin. It was real, though still absurd. And of course, they did their work and gathered all the critters up and put Sheila, Joey, and others into animal control trucks. And when Daddy Mac heard of the fate of his raccoons, he waited till evening, then set his face up to the moon. Oh Lord, you brought me ivermectin and wealth along the way. I've had my fun. Now it's time to aid my friends this day. For the thing I thought would end in lots of Benjamins turned out to have a lot more meaning in the end. I helped people get better, and I gave them lots of hope. I did lots more for people than I ever did with dope. And now I've got to be like you and lay my life down for my friends. They can continue where I've stopped. They'll push a healthy trend. And toward midnight on that eve, Daddy Mac loaded up his big truck with bricks and cans and pots and pans and other heavy stuff. And he drove through the wall of the kennel in which his friends were trapped, pushing through glass, bricks, and plywood, driving till the cages snapped. And the jailbroken raccoons all came out and hugged their Daddy Mac. Y'all go on now and run and let me take this fall. It ain't no thing for me, especially for y'all. I can serve a dime or more. I've done time before. But get the goods and run onto a hood where they ain't wise to all that you can do, you awesome little guys. And the raccoons cried, but in the end obeyed. They could see Big Mac was right. They must continue their ways. And so they ran as told, grabbing goods from Big Mac's house. Then they bugged out to a hood where the cops didn't know what they were about. And as they continued working, they proudly sang out, we pimpin' ivermectin. This is now our bag, 'cause helping out our neighbors shouldn't be a passing fad. We pimpin' ivermectin. You can get it with our skills. And word up on the street is that it cures all kinds of ills. We pimpin' ivermectin, but please don't tell the feds. And if they come around, be sure to hide it neath your beds. We pimpin' ivermectin. Ivermectin is our fame, 'cause keeping y'all healthy is the name of our game. And that is the end of the poem.
I laughed audibly. I literally am sitting here laughing audibly in my living room. the bags of ivermectin in their little raccoon pot. I'm sitting here like giggling audibly. I just love every time you tell a story. It's like it's got such a like I don't know. It's you make the most like heavy topics just so fun. So fun. You're so good at
Thank you.
But I really like how you explored this, and in a lot of ways it kind of reminded me of the opioid crisis and what's happening with dealers on the streets and selling oxy and stuff like that. But it also reminded me of what a lot of people are a little less familiar with, which is a lot of people smuggling drugs from Canada because they are cheaper. And you can get insulin and a lot of things that you really, really need a lot cheaper over there. So people will smuggle it across the border. And if they get caught, like that's a federal crime. Like you're going to prison. Like hardcore fucking prison if you get caught. And I mean, you get caught doing that, say on the West Coast, and you're freaking smuggling it back from British Columbia into California, you're probably going to San Quentin, which is the like most high fucking level prison in the country. And for trying to get some grandma her freaking insulin,
So that's what I'm talking about here, is that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm. And absolutely, I really loved how you the part where you said when you were selling crack and coke and whatever. No, that was fine, but you start moving in on our market, now we have a problem, because now this is we don't care that you're killing people, we care that you're taking our fucking money. We're big
Yeah.
pharma, and we don't care about lives. We care about money, and you're taking it from us. So lock up all the fucking raccoons who are taking our money. You know, yeah. I really loved how you like, again, you always find a way to explore these really, really heavy topics in such a fascinating and intriguing and entertaining way. Like, I can be sitting here in deep contemplation about our issues in the world while I'm giggling, and it's just such a unique experience with all your work. I love that. And your your flow and timing was so on key. Just, I mean, everything from your just your facial expression and your voice, like, very expressive. And that's something that I try with my raps, and that me and Caleb talk about frequently is expressiveness, because the more you look at reading a piece of rap or a piece of poetry as less of a song and more of like a stage performance, like you're acting on a like you're being an actor and you're acting on a show, like it comes across so much better because you're able to put more inflection in each word, and it sounds much less robotic. And that is something that, like, when you write a lot of raps, like I do, sometimes you kind of get into this routine of like, oh, I got to make the rhyme and the flow pattern okay, and you don't think often about, like, I have to be expressive. I have to sound like I'm saying this in a conversation rather than just reading it off a sheet of paper. And you really did a great job of making it feel like you were saying it in a conversation rather than reading off of a piece of paper. Just the little giggles, the little like head turns, and just, you know, mannerisms and expressiveness. I love the whole performance. That was amazing.
Thank you. I hope that it brightened your rough week. Is what I hope it did.
Thank you. It did. Thank you. It did. And really, that's that is the thing that I want to thank you for the most, is really, you are one of the people that whenever I'm having a hard week, definitely brightens my week with your work and your vibe and your personality. So thank you for being such a big part of this show and blessing us with your amazing work.
Thank you. It's my honor. Thank you. All the honor is mine.
Absolutely. So hold on. Oh, real quick, before there was a question I wanted to ask you, and it had something to do with the description on the back of this book, but now I can't remember what the hell it was, because I was reading the description on the back of this book earlier, and I had written, where's my list of questions? Oh no.
It's okay.
Well, while I find my questions, how about we just have you read so this is an excerpt from the newest one you're working on, and yeah. I cannot wait to see what your amazing artist comes up with for this. I'm sure that's going to be very great, because the two artworks so far have been, I mean, just, this is one of my favorite. Just, I want this in a poster. You need to sell this as a poster, because this is like, for a second, I just want to talk about this.
Sure. Oh, your mic's off. Your mic.
The way that oh, is it back now?
Yeah, it's good now.
Okay.
You're good.
The way that he made this cat, just sort of like, I mean, you can feel him quivering on this fence like this, and like, it's just one of the most like expressive pieces of artwork ever, and it just like it conveys Chester's entire personality with one, like, he's got the one eye bulging out because he's just been up for days, fucking just he's just been up for days, like mapping, like, you know, those like I just picture you know, Chester, you know, with those like red pieces of yarn on a wall somewhere, and he's just like,
yeah.
I gotta figure it out. And he's like, the artist just captured that so great. And then equally so with the all the little critters staring at the TV and just the whole vibe of that artwork too. So I can't wait to see what he comes up with for what is it? The Burning Earth? Yes.
Conspiracy Crew, The Burning Earth. So
Burning Earth.
this one's going to be pretty wild. I'm going to really get into weather mod. That's the big theme of this one.
Death beams.
I'm also, yep, I'm gonna be getting into that. There's also some evidence that it might actually be coming from the ground. I've been listening to some of these lectures by, I listened to one the other day by an arborist, someone who specializes in trees. And I guess some of the trees at some of these sites have actually burned from the inside out. And he said trees don't do that because fire, like this is the tree, normal fire is going to lap up against it and burn like this way, right? And burned all around it, kind of like that. But the trees that are at this site, I mean, they look like they're intact, but some of them you cut open and like they're hollowed out, like they burn from the inside out. And he said the only thing that I can think of is that the water that was in the tree heated up really hot and burned almost like a microwave type thing. So, but people have seen beams falling from the sky. They saw them in the Texas fires. They saw them in Lahaina. They saw them in Chile. I don't know. There was a big.
I'm thinking like, we got Elon Musk, and they had Luke Skywalker. It wasn't that hard for him to blow up the Death Star. I feel like Elon Musk can help us out. Send like send a rocket into their fucking death beam and blow it up. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be good. So I will definitely be praying for Elon to be on the right side of things. But
God, I really hope so, because it is, and on a serious note, I did kind of say that as a joke, but on a serious note, I really do hope that, like, because I go back and forth with him, and like I see some things where I'm like, well, he's definitely on our side, he's on that side of humanity, and then I see other things where I'm like, this guy might be a little fucking sketchy, and I just really hope that, because he is like someone with not only that much money but that much knowledge, and like, because knowledge, not only money is power, but knowledge is power. Mm-hmm. And with someone who has one of the people in the world that has the most money and the most knowledge at his fingertips, I really hope he's on the side of the good guys. And I know good and evil is a gray area, but like the guys that don't want, the earth to burn and just, I hope that he is altruistic in his intentions and just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Real quick question.
He's very. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It just occurred to me, and I wanted to ask you now before I completely forget about it. I wanted to ask your opinion about birds, because there is this conspiracy theory which you seem to specialize in. You seem to specialize in. Yeah. There's this conspiracy theory that birds are not real, or that some of them are not real and they are cameras. And since you are someone who writes animal themed books about conspiracy theories, I was wondering what your take on that is.
I think it's very possible. I wouldn't say birds are not real. I mean, there are, real birds out there that exist. So just because you're looking at a bird doesn't mean it's a camera. But I would not put it past. I would put nothing past these people. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen it one get flattened by a car, so I'm pretty sure at least some of them are real.
Yeah. My cats brought home birds, and they're living organisms. But I wouldn't put it past some of these psychos to use that organic model and, either somehow hijack it, take control of it, or develop a robotic, facsimile that can do spying and things like that. I wouldn't. I think it's definitely within the realm of possibilities. So,
see, I'm of the opinion that it's if there are a bunch of camera birds flying around, they're most likely pigeons in like big cities, not like eagles and like blue jays and stuff like that. It's probably like pigeons, because that would probably, I mean, that's the most simple bird to probably like create a facsimile of, and it's also the most robotic looking and acting bird there is. I mean, think about how a pigeon acts and walks and just moves its head. Like it is, and
Yeah.
it's so robotic already. So it would be that's my opinion. Is like when I look at a pigeon, I'm like, yeah, that could definitely be a robot for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I don't think that they're all fucking. But I swear to God, there are whole Facebook groups dedicated to birds not being real, like Facebook groups called birds aren't real, and if you say that birds are real, then you get kicked out of the group and everything. I'm probably part of one, and I'm gonna get kicked out of the group now because of this podcast. Whatever. But cool.
Oh
I,
well.
I just I just wanted to get your take on that because it seemed to fit your kind of niche. But yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you'll write a story about or a poem about that someday. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I might. Maybe I'll fit it into one of the conspiracy crew books. I don't know. So because they,
Cool.
they talk to all the critters, so we'll see how
Right.
that goes. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it'd be cool.
this next
It would be
piece.
cool if like Chester just came up on like a bird and he tried to like start talking to it, and then it just like its eyes started glowing red or something, and it, like tried to like laser his head off. Some weird crazy shit. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, absolutely. Anything you want to say before you get into it? I will just drop myself out of here, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is just the first part of the book. It really starts off where the last one left off. So the book that's out now called Conspiracy Crew, The End is Meow. If you read all the way to the end, and I'm sorry about the spoiler here, but basically the animals have just helped the trucker blockades in Canada. And Lord Slorp has picked them up on a spaceship. And they're introduced to a new character, a Russian cat whose name is Darushka, and she is Chester's girlfriend. So right now, they are in the ship and they're talking. Just a little word about the timeline here. The trucker blockade at Coots Crossing was in January of 22. The Lahaina fires did not occur till the summer of 23. So I am fudging the timeline here with these events, okay? But for the purposes of storytelling and keeping things kind of fast paced and wanting to cover everything that I think is important to waking people up, that's why I'm kind of smushing this together, okay? So anyway, they're on the ship, and here we go. And Conspiracy Crew, The Burning Earth. We need saving from the climate cult, not communism, Rocky growled. Darushka looked at him, her white face a mask of sarcasm. Da, is same thing. Don't you duh me, Rocky barked, his tail puffed up. Bonnie and Chester stepped between them to keep the exchange from dissolving into a fight. And how can they be the same thing? Rocky demanded, poking his head above Bonnie and Chester. One is weather modification and worship. The other is a failed economic system. Not the, that, Darushka corrected. Like Russian, yes. And the, both are same thing. I will explain. You'll see, American normies will never accept communism. Rich jerks know this. So, pick no name. Call it climate change. Darushka moved her paws to quote the words. Cannot drive car, cannot grow food, cannot let cow fart. Production stops, economy stops. Rich jerks seize farms and ranches. Then, darling, shortages, starvation, fear. More power for rich jerks. And boom, have communism. Is same thing, with new name, repackaged, resold, and wrapped up in big green. Rocky's demeanor fell, and his puffed haunches deflated. He didn't fully understand what Darushka was saying, but it intrigued him enough to take the fight out of him. He stared at the Russian for a minute, blank-faced and impotent. The white cat stared back, equally clueless on where to take things. Rocky felt a claw on his shoulder. It was Mr. He. Think of it like this, the lizard person offered. You know I'm from China. Two things about that place. One, it's the world's #1 polluter, and two, it's communist. Do you know how much climate change messaging we get over there? None, nada, zero, zilp, zilch. They don't have to convince people to change their economy. We already have communism. If climate change were real, Don't you think the world's #1 exporter of greenhouse gases will be trying to change its ways? You can also follow the money, Chester roared and twitched excitedly. Think. Look, where are the richest humans building their homes? Are they building in Kansas? South Dakota? The mountains of West Virginia? No! They're building on beachfront property. The very same areas they're telling the normies will flood. They're building in Martha's Vineyard. They're building in Florida. They're building in Hawaii, Lord Slurp yelled out. Yes, Hawaii. They're building in Hawaii, Chester agreed, smiling. No, Hawaii is their next target. What? Bonnie and Rocky barked together. We've got to move. We got to move now, Lord Slurp yelled, running his fingers across the controls of his ship. Moira, I need you on co-pilot to engage the warp engines. Misty jumped up on the controls next to Moira as the redhead ran her fingers across the panel. Working in tandem with Lord Slurp to fire up the warp engines, the kitten scratched her head. I thought warp speed was only a fake thing that came from shows on glowing boxes. Of course warp speed is on the glowing boxes, Chester yelled, buckling up at a passenger's seat. It's predictive programming for when the government does Project Bluebeam. What's predictive programming? And what's Project, never mind. Tommy stopped himself. I don't want to know. He shoved the buckle into his chair, grumbling. I can only take so much weirdness in one day. Why are we warping? Misty yelled, but before Lord Slurp or Moira could answer, the ship lurched and Misty landed on the floor next to Darushka. I just got a transmission from my people, Lord Slurp yelled over the whirring engines. They are tracking an unmarked plane with a mounted DEW. It's online. They just did a practice run outside Midway Island, and the ocean there literally boiled. My people say they're going to hit Lahaina, Maui within the hour. Kremlin intel said same thing, Darushka yelled. The Russian grabbed Misty by her scruff and shoved her into the chair next to her. Buckle up, Malyish. We go now. Hey, I was walking, Misty growled. You'll be flying, Malyish. Make buckle before you do. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Rocky growled at Darushka as he buckled up with the rest. Darushka's green eyes simmered. Was on to-do list. Did not factor in dog's Cold War mindset. Cold War? Enough, Bonnie ordered. Lord Slurp's got to fly this thing, and he's got to fly it fast. Shut it so he can. A loud thump echoed through the ship as oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. Bonnie noticed Darushka fitting Misty's shortly after putting hers on. Hey, this thing is too big, Tommy complained, and Bonnie looked to see his head sitting comically in the nose well of the mask, while the rest of it bowed out around his neck like a badly shaped bell. They don't come in our size. Try to make it work, Mr. He yelled, fogging his own mask. Like Tommy, his hood only filled about half, leaving unused plastic hanging over his neck like a skirt. Bonnie quickly fitted hers as the engines roared to life, launching the saucer at speeds unknown to mankind. Outside, the clouded sky became a streaking blur of swirling whites and blues as the alien and his human co-pilot punched through the limits of time and space, bending the air about them into a wormhole and employing such G-forces that even the oxygen masks were of little assistance, and unconsciousness threatened the conspiracy crew. Just as the pressure became too much and darkness danced in Bonnie's eyes, the saucer screeched to a halt and hovered in the sky above the Hawaiian Islands. Bonnie instinctively knocked her mask to the ground and gasped. The pets around them did the same thing until the shock of the G-forces left them. Tommy was the first to speak. The next time you decide to flatten my lungs, could I please get a little warning? Mr. He giggled. Look on the bright side. I found a use for the extra space in my mask. He held the contents up briefly, just long enough for the others to see what he was talking about. Disgusting, Missy yelled as Mr. He quickly double-bagged his mask so it wouldn't smell up the ship. Moira and Lord Slurp removed their masks but didn't respond. The control panel clicked and lights dimmed as they switched the ship's functions from warp to stealth. Co-pilot, please confirm coordinates. I have 20.798363, negative 156.331924. Coordinates confirmed. I show same, Moira told Lord Slurp. We are 40,000 feet above the island of Maui. How do you read? I read same distance, Lord Slurp confirmed as he continued to hit buttons on the screen. Bonnie looked out the window and saw a bright golden sun above a cerulean landscape and white puffy clouds. It was just above this thick cloud cover that the crew now hovered. Cloaking on, prepare for descent, Moira said calmly, never taking her eyes from the control panel. Lord Slurp hit a few switches above him. Descent engaged. A sinking feeling, like the sensation of an elevator falling falling through the conspiracy crew as the ship entered the blanket of clouds. Bonnie felt mildly nauseous as Lord Slurp called out the depth markers. Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3. Moira looked back at Mr. He and handed him her tablet. See if you can zone in on any unfriendly flight patterns as we approach. Roger. Eyes on approach. Mr. He took the tablet and ran his claws across the screen while Chester looked on to assist him. Bonnie looked at Rocky and reached for his paw. Why do I get the feeling that we're headed for hell? Rocky didn't respond but held her paw back and looked out the window. Bonnie noticed that his lip trembled as he did so. The ship continued falling slowly until strands of gray began to tint the billowing puffs of white, and then all at once the cottony mounds darkened deeply, strangely. The closest thing Bonnie could compare them to was storm clouds, but that wasn't quite right. These clouds were something else because they declared something else, something sad, evil, unnatural. They looked created, intentional, purposeful. And when Bonnie saw them, her heart broke. And then suddenly, Moira cried, "We're too late." Bonnie looked at Rocky, who looked back at her briefly before releasing his seatbelt and running instinctively to the panoramic window spanning the length of the spaceship. The oceanfront town of Lahaina, Maui, was ablaze below them, a dark streak of black crested orange in the low light. It lay smoking and decimated against a black ocean like a fiery and dying crescent, a red gash inflicted by one of the vilest monsters the world would ever know. And that is the conclusion of the opening to the next of Chester's adventures.
I love this. I'm so intrigued. And you know what? I more and more it like, and it started to feel like, obviously I've only, heard excerpts, but it started to feel like this more in the second book. But just like I am always a sucker for like a heist movie, or like, one of those where there's like we all team up and we get like there's like, oh, we need a hacker and we need a strong man and we need like each person with each kind of different skill to like do this mission. Like I'm just like a sucker for those kind of stories. And like I just you've built like a very intriguing like and I love that's the introduction too. It's just this kind of like you're just kind of getting through, and obviously there's carryover from the end of the last book, but like you kind of start this book off just in this kind of like getting the team together for a heist kind of like vibe and feeling, and I just love that. Like, and it's funny that I mentioned Luke Skywalker blowing up the Death Star, because it does have that kind of like that same kind of like vibe almost, where it's like, and I love that it's like just little critters, and they're the team that's gonna like save the fucking world, and that like I love that. It almost too, it has like for some reason your stuff always kind of gives me like the same feeling I get watching like a Muppets movie. Like especially I forget which one it's called, but like there's this Muppets movie where like they all like go to Hollywood and they, I don't know, there's like this big mission. They have to like break into like some Hollywood studio and do something, and it's like a big heist mission, and like it just, I remember it being like one of my like favorite things growing up, was just like that kind of thing, like where anytime you get like a group of like, it's like a group of individuals with, as Liam Neeson would say, a particular set of skills, and you know what I mean, and you do a very good job at like encapsulating the seriousness of it too, without making it too like, because also like as an introduction, you don't want it to be, at least the way I feel as a reader, is I don't want the introduction to be like too not necessarily glum, but too like dreary, and like you want there to be some kind of like sense of adventure, and you definitely bring that sense of like, even though it's bleak and like, you're tackling very hard issues, you bring this sense of like Peter Pan going to fucking Neverland, like this sense of like, oh, we're going on an adventure, you know, and we're going to do something exciting, even though it's like we're going to save the end of the world from fucking like death beams and shit. It's people are dying and it's horrible and it's god awful, but you just like there's a sense of adventure, you know, and it's like it is in the best ways, like reminds me of cartoons from my childhood in the best possible ways, but it also in the best ways reminds me of like the best like heist movies and spy movies and stuff like that, like The Italian Job and things like that. Yeah. That was those were like one of my biggest things growing up. So yeah, I mean, you do such a good job of bringing those two so different universes of like a heist movie and a like kids adventure with animals and combining it into this such a unique universe. I am so in love with the world that you've built. It is amazing.
Thank you.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Glad you love it. I just hope it made your week better.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, it has been a little bit of a rough week, but you know, hey, it is Saturday night. I get to at least relax for a day before I have to go back to work. And you know, I all today, I don't know if you ever seen Clerks, but all today I just kept going, I'm not even supposed to be here today. And nobody I felt so awkward because no one even got the quote, because none of my coworkers haven't seen Clerks, and I'm like, you haven't seen? Are you kidding me? I'm not even supposed to be here today.
That's a classic.
That is the only quote that I can. That's the only quote I can quote on here without YouTube getting mad.
I love Clerks. I think it's great.
Yeah. There's I heard that I haven't seen it yet, but there is a Clerks 3 that just came out like a year or two ago. I heard, and I still have yet to see it, but I'm gonna have to go check that out. Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I actually did see it, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. I mean, of course, all the usual suspects are there. Jay and Silent Bob, of course, my favorites. But
well, yeah, I mean, you know. Well, okay, yeah, he directs and makes all the movies. So, God, what is his name? I can't. I'm
Smith, I think.
Kevin Smith, I think. Yes, Kevin Smith. Thank you. I was like, what is Silent Bob's name? God damn it. Yeah, he I mean, he is like, yeah, director, writer, producer, like he does a lot of it. And he's been making like movies for what, like 30 years now almost. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
That's absolutely insane. Jay and Silent Bob might be older than I am. That's crazy. Oh my God.
They're like in their 60s now. I hate it. I'm like, no, but they're still them. And somehow it works, even though they're old. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, no, because they always, even like the original movies, like it was a very kind of like Dumb and Dumber. It was like, these are very clearly 30-year-old men attempting to like badly pretend that they're children, but kind of like dress and act more like teenagers than adults. But they're clearly like no makeup, just a wig, just you know what I mean? And actually, Jay and Silent Bob, they literally just like, and the genius of it really was the dynamic, and it's all in the title too. The genius of it was the dynamic of those two is just Jay being that obnoxious, like just a dumb jock teenager, even into his 40s. He's just a jock. He's just a dumb jock. And then Jay and Silent Bob, he's like Ferb from Phineas and Ferb. He just doesn't say anything unless it's like very key and very like important. And usually what he says, it's like brilliant. You're like, and it's such a contrast to Jay's like just fucking Yeah. But not, I don't know where we got
Good
into Jay
stuff.
and Silent Bob, but anyway, it has been fantastic. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having such a great chat with me. And thank you for continuing to write awesome stories. And I can't wait to I'm still on the first book, so I have a long road ahead of me, and I can't wait to continue this journey. So thank you for providing us with all these. Everybody, make sure you go on Amazon, pick up Tales of American Idiocy, and then pick up Conspiracy Q. Yeah, Conspiracy Crew. The End is Meow, and then keep a lookout for Conspiracy Crew: The Burning Earth, coming to you very soon. And yeah, I appreciate you being on. If there's anything you'd like to say before we get out of here, any message you have for the people, by all means.
Just thank you very much for watching, and I hope you'll check out my work, and remember, question everything.
I love that. Question everything. That is a fantastic way to leave it, and really encapsulates everything you stand for. So thank you. Yeah, question everything. And go follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and anywhere else you find your podcast. Keep a lookout for Lostboys Presents Deep Cuts. This was kind of a Deep Cuts episode, actually. Maybe, I don't know if YouTube will let me, but maybe I'll go and retitle it at some point. But be sure to keep a lookout, because Miss Patricia will be back on our regular episodes, and I'm sure that she will do a Deep Cuts episode with me at some point. And we will go even further into and maybe by then you'll have more of this new book to share with us too. So keep a lookout for more Lost Boys. Keep a lookout for more Patricia, PR Infidel, as she goes publicly and professionally. And catch us next week. Next week on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Peace out, guys. Thanks for watching.